Okay, so with that, I would like now to turn the evening over to our host and publisher for this wonderful magazine, the man who has made this possible, Vernon Rowe.
Thank you, Mary Frances, and thanks everybody for coming. Best laid plans of mice and men. This, can anybody spare a dime? I'm just kidding.
We can just hold it.
Yeah, actually it was designed to be held like this, if you want to, and read from the podium. Tonight's a little bit different kind of reading. We spent some time organizing this reading so that it would be a more of a dramatic production, with its peaks and valleys, and mellow ending. That's why everybody's sitting in numbered in seats with their names on. Basically, readers will go from that wall to this wall, then from that wall to this wall, that wall, this wall, and then back to the last two. An effort like this, which is a huge amount of work, I had no idea how much work this was going to be when we started out on this trek. Really could not have happened without several people involved in it. So Mary Frances, I'd like to just present you with this little thing. Mary Frances at Dynamo, she makes this thing work, giving you the most valuable gift in the world, the gift of time. I didn't expect this. No, thank you. Thank you very much for making everything happen. And Judy. Judy, unbelievable. Just hundreds of hours must have been put in on formatting this book and getting everything right. Judy's the spine of the play, and I just want to thank her and acknowledge her also for all of her work. Judy. And then someone else who did a huge amount of work in the background. She gets to put up with me every day. And so, Elizabeth, I'd like to give you this token of our esteem and our thanks for her help. And then last, but not least, the genius of an editor like David Ray. Really, the importance of that genius can't really be overstated. But David, unfortunately, you and I get only my deepest thanks and gratitude. My undying gratitude. So. Again, it's a little bit different kind of reading. So, without further ado, we're going to start with Bill Trovich and move to my left, stage left.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. This microphone makes me want to say, now for a little number I wrote myself. It's called Feeling. No, okay. Thanks to the editors of Whirlybird Anthology and for all you coming out, and it's really an honor to be included among all these distinguished Kansas City writers. And if you look over the list of names here, it's apparent that Kansas City kicks ass. So I'm going to read, I grew up in Nebraska, and so I thought I'd read a kind of Nebraska poem, which is called Starkweather. Some of you may recognize the name. Charles Starkweather was Nebraska's most famous mass murderer and the last man to die in the Nebraska electric chair. And it always seemed to me that his name was connected with the kind of bad juju that sent him on his journey to kill all these people. Stark weather. Nebraska has stark weather, it seems to me, and especially when it gets very windy. And there's something about the wind that keeps blowing incessantly that kind of like drives you out of your skull. And if you're not well nailed down, you're in trouble, or other people are in trouble, I guess. So this is called Stark Weather. On the Great Plains in March, the wind blows for days. Gutter pipes vibrate. Shingles flap. Things begin to come loose. Once they found old Miss Purdy wandering at midnight on US 40, her nightgown billowing over her spindly blue-gray thighs. It took 3 deputies to hold her down till the doctor arrived. On the Great Plains in March, the dry elm scrapes at an upstairs window. Dust devils swirl and disperse across the wide, empty fields. And a pistol shot sounds no louder than a screen door slapping on a porch. And for my second poem, I would like to, it's not my second poem actually, it's the wonderful poem by Bill Hickok, who has a lot to do with the writer's place existence and carrying on, and Bill is carrying on, in, it seems to me, in heroic manner if you've seen him lately. He's got things very tough, and he is, it just doesn't seem to impair his spirit whatsoever. So this is a Bill Hickok poem entitled Taboo. Back then, nobody had tattoos except sailors and drunks. I was both. Blessed by the sea and battered by rum. You will get no apologies from me. I kept the mainsail on course. I did my job. My word was true. And I kept the wind out of my mouth. A taciturn man, they said, without a sextant to my brain or a compass to my heart. Tattoos are popular now. Tramp stamp, trailer trash, Muscle Beach, Under the Wing, Heartfelt, and Ginger Snacks, Snakes. Take me home, banana boat. My tattoo is an anchor on my chest that is sunk to the bottom of the sea. Time for a new tattoo, a new irrevocable contract, more sure than marriage, less sure than death. Who can forget his mom, his first love? Pardon me. The rose, the viper, and the twist of permanence. Not I, sir. They're always with me. For myself, I will take a single unguarded musical note to sing my song. I will place it on the back of my wrinkled hand and cast my anchor to an outgoing tide.
Thank you, Bill. I need to emphasize to all the readers that we won't have time for preambles to the pieces, with the exception of Frank and reading what's in the book. But no matter how valuable those things are, just those things like Bill just communicated with us. But if we do that, we'll be here for 3 hours. So, Frank, thank you.
From the play Never Say Die by Frank Higgins. A team of young minor league baseball players are in a cheap locker room. So cheap there are no lockers, just pegs for their clothes. The players listen to Moose Corwin, a former World Series hero, is now their manager. You know the best feeling in the world? You walk out on the field, on the road, and people boo, because you're the best. and they know it, and they're jealous. And they're thinking, we're going to knock you off this time. We're going to bring you down. Made my adrenaline flow. When I was with the Yankees, my favorite games were the close ones with big rivals at the end of the season on the road. The whole season's on the line, the noise of the crowd getting louder every inning, the tension, the screaming, the hot dog vendors and beer vendors all set their stuff down to watch, and everybody's watching, everybody's screaming, 60,000 people hoping you screw up. And then their best runner reaches first, and the whole world knows he'll try to steal second. And he's waiting and watching and waiting, and there he goes, and there's 60,000 screams, and you make the throw, and he slides, and there's a cloud of dust, and the screams get louder, and he's out! And the game's over, and the season's over, and you hear 60,000 groans, and then silence. That silence was my personal reward. You can know that feeling too. American History, popular version by Mbembe Milton Smith. George Washington is crossing the Delaware on a beaten horse. Alexander Hamilton is dying in a frilly shirt with a pale woman kneeling over him. Thomas Jefferson is sitting in dim light, scribbling on a thin parchment. Two men with white wigs are shaking hands on the porch of a mansion. Paul Revere's hair is streaming in the wind. A frail woman is standing at a window. Another is seated at a bureau, brushing her long brown hair. Abraham Lincoln is walking a dirt road, his big bony wrists sticking from his coat sleeves. We're down in there somewhere. A mule with a hard road to hoe. A pair of black hands clutching the whitest cotton. Down there grinning or just seething in silence. Our eyes rolling around in our heads, our tongues beseeching the burning yellow sun.
I'm Catherine Anderson, and I'm going to read Midwifery. Story is, she had black eyes and crackling hair, once drove a fat pickup through national woods and got jailed. But smart, that one. Did her midwifery off country roads, far from the law. Times she'd be on the road for weeks, up at dawn, windshield lit pink, tarmac pulsing like a brainwave. Kept all the due dates in her head, her jeans and underpants rolled in a bag, a birthing apron looped on a hook in the cab. They say school kids used to watch her work, 3 or 4 creeping in, while someone's mother lay churning, legs up to her chin, and she rowing her, each stroke a heartbeat, that midwife's arm, a fast, quick oar pulling them both, mother and child, to wide, soft sheets, the shore. Out, she'd holler later to the O-mouthed kids, arms snapping as each face vanished, and she paused, apron washed and whipping on a line, a white flag crossing and recrossing the horizon. And next I'll read a poem by Deborah Linton, and the title is Mannington, West Virginia, November 23rd, 1968, AP. It was like my grandfather's retelling his near disasters, this headline. He survived 3, each the more miraculously. Once he was in a lucky vein, another time hay fever kept him home. Another, like the good Chinese in myth who are yanked by their braids from destruction, my long-legged Slovak grandpa was dragged by his shoes from a burial of rock. We looked at the coal embedded in his nails and studied his hands' geography, each chip visible as a scar, truthful as a callus, was romantic as a street map of Prague. Thank you.
My name is Alan Proctor. Old Highway 9. The old man leans against his spade, handle digging at the buckle on his overalls. The clay-streaked forehead facing west where reason dims. An orange flower growing wild in the field that lights his face. He holds a dozen rose rocks, filched near the red dirt road his grandchildren call Jesus Alley. And behind him, the farmhouse slumps in a coma of brittle scrub oak and shade. A Conoco sign competes patiently. The gas pumps shoulder their watch. The glow fades. And then the veil ignites his heart. He will plant the stones now in rows along the highway, his body humming through the dark. And 2 poems by Ernest Hemingway. Schwarzwald. As white hairs in a silver fox's skin, the birches lie against the dark pine hill. They're talking German in a compartment. Now we're winding up through tunnels, puffing, dark valleys, noisy rivered, rock-filled, barred with white. Heavy-browed houses, green fields, frosted with hop poles, a flock of geese along the road. I knew a gypsy once who said he hoped to die here. Champ d'honneur. Soldiers never do die well. Crosses mark the places. Wooden crosses where they fell, stuck above their faces. Soldiers pitch and cough and twitch. All the world roars red and black. Soldiers smother in a ditch, choking through the whole attack.
My name is H.C. Palmer. Thank you, editors. Counting Boys in a Truck. Phuc Vinh, Vietnam, 1965. The big deuce and a half skids to a stop near a row of rubber trees inside our Michelin plantation camp. In the cargo bed, a tangle of arms and legs, yellow roots torn from their sandy red soil. We unload 34 bodies side by side, display 14 AK-47s, 8 bandoliers of 7.62 ammo, and 2 60mm mortars in front of the dead. The captain invites the press, inspects his night's work. Some in loincloths, Viet Cong. Some in black shirts, Viet Cong. Some naked and without pubic hair, Viet Cong. I take shots with my 35mm. The old slides are cached inside my footlocker in a corner of my basement, with 3 sets of jungle fatigues, 1 pair of boots, my dog tags, 5 punji stakes, 1 Montagnard's brass bracelet, 1 lock of raven black hair, and 1 sculpted ivory Bengal tiger I hustled from an old man on Tudo Street. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Robert Stewart. This first poem is called Roughing In. Like Dante's fallen lovers, Paolo and Francesca, the plumber seeks perpetual union. Where cast irons lowered on shoulders of apprentices, pitch rubs off on the right side of their faces, a procession of one-sided men towards slope and sump. Below slightest wind, the plumber cradles a chalice of hot lead, the outward sign of yellow smoke spreading. where spadefuls of wet clay lie on their backs, the long Our Father beads of Italian laborers. Water lapses into a single way of life, spiraling into circles of good works and waste, where the life of this world cures under concrete. Epistles invulgate the cloistered credo of disposal and redemption. The next poem is by Philip Miller, whom we all knew as just Phil Miller. It's called The Other. It was another surprise to have found you speaking the same language I speak. And for an hour or two, we saw things the same way, or seemed to. You went to sleep first. I watched you, your breathing interrupted by little fits of dreaming in that other country I fell into soon after. And if we dreamed each other, each of us was another, two others, having a few hours together before falling apart into other landscapes. Look, there you are across the park, beside the big elms, waving and waving to someone and saying what might be hello or ta-ta.
It's hard for these shorts. My name is Mary Frances Wagner, and this first poem is called In the Same Place. I miss the man 4 tables over, sitting alone, tapping his glass. I miss the man waiting with notebook in the class I never took. I turned too late to the man in the gallery, admiring the same painting. The man leaving the filling station, his suit coat over his empty seat. I miss the man jogging the footpath an hour before I arrive, the man 4 up in the theater, 3 aisles over in the grocery. I miss the man standing in his own backyard, looking at the same April stars, thinking about the woman who took the other elevator. Tonight, when we turn alone in our beds, the invisible one is half asleep on our pillows. We feel the breath of the other. For a moment, our fingertips touch. And this one is called Ragazza. Ragazza means young girl. A good Italian woman will cover her dust-free house with crochet doilies, bear dark-eyed sons, know what to do with artichokes and chickpeas. Her floors will shine. She will serve tender bruschellini in her perfect sauce, make her own cannoli shells, make biscotti for every wedding. Supper will be hot at 6 o'clock. She will always wear dresses. She will not balance the checkbook. He can doze behind the paper when she washes dishes. Because she will never leave him, he will forgive her bulging thighs. Because he will never leave her, she won't notice unfamiliar stains. Italian men always know ragazzi who work the fields in Bavonia. For airfare, one will come. In time, she will learn English. In time, they may learn to love. And then this is my favorite poem by James Tate, The Blue Booby. The blue booby lives on the bare rocks of Galapagos and fears nothing. It is a simple life. They live on fish, and there are few predators. Also, the males do not make fools of themselves, chasing after the young ladies. Rather, they gather the blue objects of the world and construct from them a nest, an occasional gulawa package, a string of beads, a piece of cloth from a sailor suit. This replaces the need for dazzling plumage. In fact, in the past 50 million years, the male has grown considerably duller, nor can he sing well. The female, though, asks little of him. The blue satisfies her completely, has a magical effect on her. When she returns from her day of gossip and shopping, she sees he has found her a new shred of blue foil. For this, she rewards him with her dark body. The stars turn slowly in the blue foil beside them, like the eyes of a mild savior.
My name is Dan Jaffe. I'm going to read a poem called The Forecast, written in 1958, my first poem in Kansas City. Perhaps our age has driven us indoors. We sprawl in the semi-darkness, dreaming sometimes of a vague world spinning in the wind. But we have snapped our locks, pulled down our shades, taken all precautions. We shall not be disturbed. If the earth shakes, it will be on a screen. And if the prairie wind spills down our streets and covers us with leaves, the weatherman will tell us. This one is called Looking for the Foreman. Over their shoulders, the workmen look for the foreman, for his black car touring the site. Between truckloads of earth and rock, they lounge in a paradise of shade, sip from thermoses and bottles stashed by the side of the road. All day, they carry the sun on their backs, deflect it with hats, look down into their shadows as if into deep lakes of themselves. Between scoops, they lean on shovels, brick by brick, board by board, their work collects. Slowly, a labor of seasons, a long history of burdens and hammers, of many measures, of hauling and shoving, of waiting for something to fit, something to fall. When done is done, they collect their checks, dream of some big payoff, far from the job. The last poem I'm going to read by Sharat, that is G.S. Sharat Chandra, our friend, great short story writer and poet. Facts of Life. My father, teetotaler, vegetarian, took 2 baths a day, one at dawn, the other before his evening obeisance to Lord Shiva at the temple. Cleanliness of forms, the given and the gifted, adherence to principles, honesty, truth, purity, were things he'd die for. Yet he died of a malignancy whose virtue was pillage, whose forms spread from viscera to vision, from body to soul. Now he who loved roses lies buried within limits of his caste cemetery by the river Kabini, where the banyans sway, where transients and pilgrims come to celebrate Shiva's victory over one demon or another. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Janet Banks, and I'm reading my poem, Swagalicious. A natural swing, a flow of his arm, a drag of his foot with a smooth move, groove scratching the concrete while stepping to a beat in his head, whether in public or at home. The swag is stuck like skin or hair that stands on end when a cold wind blows. He doesn't even know he has the walk. It's a too hip for the room kind of walk. He is humble, but he can keep it under control. His style is charismatic as he blows your mind. But he can't deny his swagalicious thing that cannot be copied, even if it was cloned. Thank you. And the next poem I'm going to read is Proof Rock Was Wrong by Crystal McLean Field. Cecilia is resigned that another man will leave her to be free to love all women. I know she thinks if she's beautiful, how come she's alone? I have Greg who loves me, even though he knows me. I take it in, feel very solid, very lucky, and then fall in love with a Persian whose dark eyes light up when I enter a room. And Cecilia leaves Carl for another Potter whose blue eyes light up when she enters a room. What we have here is a series of eyes lighting up in a room. Proof Rock was wrong. This is the way the women come and go. They never mentioned Michelangelo.
Sharon Eicher, Dancing by the Light of the Moon. My dark heart is heavy with old loves, littered with remnants of tattered refuge I refuse to throw away, clinging to every scrap of kiss, every fragment of embrace, a half-eaten box of chocolates in a red satin heart. All this clutter leaves little room for new loves. There's a place over there, behind that icon of Adonis, where I sit and sulk in my dark heart. A place where I crush the dried petals of roses in my palm to see if there's some fragrance left in them. I close my eyes, grasp my knees, try to will all the old love back to life. See the sparkle in those eyes one more time. Bring the lilt back to those steps. Wind up the music for a spin around the room with this one or that one. But the music sounds like Grandma's old Victrola, never quite getting up to speed. Gonna dance with the dolly with the hole in her stocking. She keeps a rockin', knees keep a knockin'. Trish Reeves. The cows once believed that if you stand in a pond shaped like a circle, during the full moon, you'll die. That was everyone's first summer, and it finally got hot. The animals decided to hire another cow to go into the water, just to be sure. This was a cow that nobody cared much about from the dry farm next door. She squeezed through the wires one evening, saying there's no need for pay, death would be enough. She stood in the pond all night. Now, during a full moon, the pond is full of animals waiting for death. They call their pleasure the other side of the silver coin. Thank you.
Ellery Tennille, Elephant Nageur. The cameraman shoots up at the feet of elephants swimming by. On their faces, joy and surprise that the burden of gravity has been lifted. Their trunks curl upward, snorkeling air and waving hallelujah like a gospel choir. The program is in French, but no translation is needed, nor could any language explain why they'd obey the command to come ashore. Leslie Ullman, 1945. My parents were married the year Europe cheered and returned to the wreckage of her cities. No hint of me beneath my mother's flowered silk, the jaunty shoulders. That dress lived for tea dancing and long nights on the town, officers on leave, the muted brass of big bands oozing caramel, as the sea beyond Manhattan soaked up ash and the rumbling of the last trains. By the time I was born, Europe was patched with old brick, and my father's navy whites hung in darkness, our nation quiet at its borders. Every night at 6, this family of 4 sat down to dinner and smiled through white teeth like TV people, while the dog, who didn't know better, stalked other dogs in neighbors' yards. By the time I was born, the schmaltzy music had faded away. Everyone slept 8 hours a night. I came into the world without a single memory. Thank you.
Well, 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 well. How's everybody? Oh, I've got 2 poems for you. It's for the homie who's not here, Kevin Ravis. Those of you who know Kevin. Poems about how the music kills and revives. But the name of this poem by Kevin Ravis is Last Night at the Blue Room. On that night, everyone Calvin ever loved or knew showed up at the Blue Room. Almost all of them with someone else. Pale Elizabeth E. came with a black flutist, and she had an arm-length cast from her elbow to her wrist, a red headband. She wore pink. She sat in. He sat in. Haley came with her camera and took shots of the band. Her hair dyed sharp and flat, piano key black. She came with a group of young painters and sculptors, men with black hair, dressed in all black. And there were a lot of girls he never knew or thought he'd ever know. Memory slows Memories goes, who knows? But women remember. Z came in honey-colored dreads again. When she sat, it was like a light came from her face. She was the sun, a Sanskrit song, with lights dimmed, a star. She sat alone, no one moved in. Raylene came with her 6 kids, drove in from Manhattan, the Little Apple, and asked to sit in on violin, fiddle, she did. She whispered as he stepped from the stand, her song done, I'll always love you. Now you go sit in. And Calvin did. For all those women, he did. He didn't do too bad. Out of practice, but full of spirit, like Z. For these songs, he, too, lit up the room. Like a blue neon sign in a hot KC night on the corner of 18th and Vine, he did. By Kevin Ravis. And then my poem, you ever wonder where a blues jazz man comes from? The bittersweet kind of sounds. It's called An Offbeat Singer by Stanley E. Banks, in case you don't know. Aretha Franklin and my mother sang in tandem from my mother's bedroom on the weekends. But the radio volume drowned her out as she took care of her bruises. My mother was always offbeat, never had the soothing words for 5 children's wounds after our father's rampaging visits petrified our home on 1020 Vine Street. When she reached the crescendos of her fallen notes of muted groans, we could not hear her above our screams. Thank you.
My name is Jose Faust. It's a food town. She says it has always been a blues town, even when it was a jazz town, but she's wrong. It's a food town. Because I can't choose between costillas and chile verde up on Summit or samosas piping hot on Lexington, scalding pho in the market, dumplings on 39th Street, chicken spadini on 5th, or heroes, falafel and pizza at the curve. I don't want to argue Gates, Bryans, Jack Stack, LC's, Oklahoma Joe's, or your granddaddy's all night long. Italian and Austrian in the freight, peppercorns above the trains, peaches from the tree, or double cheese and grilled onions on Broadway or Baltimore, taquitos on Central Avenue or Independence Avenues, greens in Eden's Garden, starting chickens north and south, pollos ricos, shrimp barani, sashimi, rumala, mix the bunch and bring me iced sweet tea and bourbon on the side. Carl Roden, reading the great poets to cockroaches by candlelight. Once, I stayed up all night reading Blake to a cockroach by candlelight. He loved it. He told his friends. Soon there were so many in my room, I had to remain on good terms with them. Later, I tried Coleridge, The Ancient Mariner, a big hit. Cockroaches have long attention spans. After Wordsworth, they seemed wistful. It was Shelley, yes. Byron, no. Keats made them weep. Poe drove them mad.
My name is Sylvia Kofler. The Red Sofa. Tired of the hotel's restaurant fare, we slip through its revolving door and lollygag around the French Quarter in search of culinary promise. We linger in front of a furnishing storefront, admire the sleek design of a curvy red sofa. After a couple of weeks of looking at that in your living room, you'll want to take it outside and shoot it, blurts the bag lady, pushing her cart past us. Startled, we laugh and stroll off. Today, looking back on my rent sofa, the middle-aged bag lady plops down next to me and warns about summer's curvy French Quarter al fresco feasts.
I'm walking by the poet laureate of Missouri. David Ray, my first poem is Thanks, Robert Frost. Do you have hope for the future? Someone asked Robert Frost toward the end. Yes, and even for the past, he replied, that it will turn out to have been all right for what it was. Something we can accept. Mistakes made by the selves we had to be, not able to be, perhaps what we wished. Or what, looking back half the time, it seems we could so easily have been, or ought. The future, yes, and even for the past, that it will become something we can bear. And I too, and my children, so I hope, will recall as not too heavy the tug of those albatrosses I sadly placed upon their tender necks. Hope for the past. Yes, old Frost, your words provide that courage, and it brings strange peace that itself passes into past, easier to bear, because you said it, rather casually, as snow went on falling in Vermont years ago. After Tagore, strange to think how we once had wings, these very cells that make up our flesh, so earthbound and heavy, and strange we were dinosaurs, and that the water flowing through us back to earth once flowed through them. And odd to think that we were once tiny horses, great whales, little bugs that scurry around on the ground, and have done so for millions of years. Strange to think we were again and again newborn, babes just learning to smile. And the scales. You once had scales, my love, and often delighted another snake. And this poem is by Robert C. Jones, and it's called Wood Carver. You look for grain and texture like walnut or this piece of quartered oak, not sapwood, mind you. Heartwood is what you want. You can tell by the darker color. And it needs to season, soaking in running water's best, right after it's been cut. Then you dry it out with wood smoke like the old carvers did. There's pieces in English churches must be 500 years old. Still sweet and solid, took time, still takes time, if you want to do it right.
I'm Al Ortolani, and my first poem is entitled Performing the High Wire, a poem of my father's, a story of my father's. Before Easter, a teacher sent you to the office where the lady from the Children's Fund presented you with a brown package of clothes. Walking back to the classroom, you hid the embarrassment of carrying your new start in a meat wrapper. You learned early that a joke at your own expense put you in command of effacement. As class clown, you assumed a persona, the package like a chair on the tip of your nose, tight-roping an imaginary high wire to your desk. You swayed above the eyes of your classmates, teetering like nothing mattered but the circus. And then a poem by my good friend Tina Hacker, Where the Chips Fall. This might be worth some money now. My uncle shows me a tattered black case. It's unassuming, small, but nestled inside. 6 pristine rows of poker chips stamped with dark brown swastikas wait for a game. Found them in a dresser that came with the house. As my uncle pours a row into my hands, I see shadowy soldiers flinging chips onto a table. I smell sweat and cigarette ash, hear the clatter of chips slapping against one another, clack, 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 like train wheels pulsing on rails, like shells falling from guns. Stacks of chips reward the players straight. Capture a family from the ghetto, grandparents, parents, new baby boy. 3 of a kind, beat 2 pair, hurl twin brothers to the ground. Flush, crush 5 rabbis wearing black yarmulkes, then stack your winnings into mounds. Clenching a chip in my fist, I feel the coolness of its surface, the heat of the swastika, a snarl of lines. 6 rows of chips, idle for decades, lying forgotten, their value rising as the players who use them pass out of sight. 6 rows, ready for a new game.
I'm Patricia Clary Miller, and I'm going to read Eleanor Elkins Widener Builds Her Library. It's a sonnet. Harry Elkins Widener, along with his father, perished on the Titanic. In his memory, and fiercely with her own money, his mother built the Harvard University Library, decreeing that no stone be changed. The small reading room is kept as a shrine with young Harry's own books, his rare books, but with his mother's money. And I wandered in there one really cold, bleak day. The epigraph is Pietas Gravitas Virtus. Here my boy is safe. He smiles at me, his finger in his book. He left these books to me. They glow now, all warm Morocco, bright red, green, gold, no colors of the sea. He smiles at me. Nearer, my God, to thee, nearer. Come up, come up. He let us out, pulled families up from steerage, while shouting officers shot themselves. Captain Smith plunged clear. This heater does not warm. Our guard shivers. Yet silk draperies, velvet, safeguard Dickens, Shakespeare, Stevenson, first editions. Harry had Widener's eye for value, my money. Oh, come ye back. No one dare change these stones. He lives. Now he will know where to come home.
My name is Jan Duncan O'Neill, and this is my poem, Requiem for a Prodigal Daughter. She went on a protest march inside her head, juggled arguments, pretended to be a clay mug when she was Havlin, made us warm, filled whenever she smiled, but kept spilling out, losing parts of herself. The brilliant cut of her mind grew cloudy. She buttoned her old wool coat against 2 decades of Minnesota winter. January, she could not brave another morning. I like to think she was composing letters to cheer us up when she fell asleep, left empty envelopes behind. No forwarding address. This is a poem by Elizabeth Rowe entitled Kitt Peak Observatory. A mountaintop of telescopes in the desert, hovering above an ancient ocean floor. The 4 meters sparkles in the sun. We walk past signs that say, "Quiet, please." Day sleepers, for astronomers collect their stars by night. The best part for me was searching space. The best part for you was my breath on your hand as you held it to my face to shield my eyes from the blazing sun. Thank you.
My name is Judy Ray. I'd like to read you first a poem by Gloria Vando called My 90-Year-Old Father and My Husband Discuss Their Trips to the Moon. For Bill. On the balcony, I hear my father speak of craters, their depth, their breadth, how he measured his lunar steps so as not to falter, sidestepping their cavernous mouths to peer in, his echo resounding in their hearts. He was on the moon's good side, the one that smiles and on occasion winks at Earth. With audible pride, he explains he was the lone civilian on this mission, yet he was happy to come home. Yes, my husband says, it was wonderful for me too. Shepard led me by the hand around the rim of Eratosthenes. My father laughs at the similarity of the crater's name to his own, Erasmus. He is so glad Bill understands him. Relieved someone else knows how desolate it can be out there. Not only desolate, Bill says, putting an arm around my father's frail shoulders. I also know how lonely it can get. And 2 poems of my own, Middle Earth. Down under farm fields of this Middle Earth, beneath pockmarked mud, rows of burnt straw, and one black Hereford bull standing belly deep in a small pond, sit ordinary young men, 2 of them. 2 voluntary hostages to a Midwest minefield of missiles. These clean-cut young men are programmed to turn together upon command 2 keys in a red metal box, just as the computer is programmed to give them that brief command for Armageddon. But now our helpless trust must rest with just one young man, George, who expects one day to have to turn that key. He has to be careful, calm, and conscientious. His buddy, after all, has just been court-martialed for turning a submachine gun on a dog. Turning of the year. We never know if the turn is into the home stretch. We call it that, a stretch of place and time, with vision of straining, racing. We acknowledge each turn with cheers, though we don't know how many laps remain. But we can hope the course leads on far and clear while the horses have strength and balance on their lean legs, fine-tuned muscles, desire for the length of the run. Some may find the year smooth, others stumble at obstacles along the way. We never know if the finish line will be reached after faltering, slowing, or in mid-stride, leaping forward.
I'm Vernon Rowe. I'm going to read one poem. It's after Robert Frost's poem, The Grindstone. Having 2 legs and a mind of my own, I waddled my way into this world, ridden by a monkey of art. I've ground out tunes with creaking joints, racing flock, trading poems for pieces of heart. And for what? For the unmistakable mist in the eye, the catch of a breath, a sigh, tremulous voice, the hint of a smile. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Let's have the writers all stand up. All the readers, please stand up. Please, thank you. Thank you very much.